Welcome, everyone, to the very first episode of Deliberating the Dead, your After the Walking Dead after show. I don't fucking know. I'm Matt,
I'm Kyle.
and we just finished the season 9 premiere of The Walking Dead titled A New Beginning. It was a 90-minute episode. And so, what After the Dead is, this is your, like I said, After the Walking Dead discussion show for those people who don't want to listen to celebrities talk about it on The Talking Dead. They want to actually hear comic book fans and lovers of The Walking Dead and their opinions on the episode and the comparisons between the comic and the show. And that's what we're here for, right, Kyle?
Yes, sir.
So, kick things off. What did you think of episode 1, season 9, A New Beginning?
I thought it was a little slow for an hour and a half long episode. I thought that I thought they were going to get into I thought it was going to be more of a time jump, and I thought it was going to be more. I don't know. It just seemed like they're continuing that pace of putting along.
It was,
That's what I kind of got out of it.
yeah, it's definitely about a year and a half time jump, I think. But there's 2 time jumps in this season. They've already confirmed that. So I think we're going to get the second one when the mid-season premiere comes back around, when they come back from their winter break in February or whenever they do it this year. I thought I kind of agree. It was a little slow. It definitely reset the pace of the show, though. I feel like it resets the tone of the show a little bit. I definitely think that even though for a slow pace, it was still a good episode, and it's more kind of like you're seeing them reestablish now. They're really trying to reestablish society. Whereas in this time in the comic book, after All Out War, there's that time jump, but they're already established. They're getting ready to set up for the fair.
Uh,
They're farther along. They already have these routes set up. They're a lot farther along in the comic books once this time jump happens than they are in the show. I thought it was kind of cool that you're seeing them going to, museums in Washington and getting all of these old, like, covered wagons and plowing tools, and you're seeing them get the tools that the first settlers here used to build, the foundation for what this country was built on and civilization was built on. So I think that was kind of a cool change.
I just thought they were doing it because it's a time jump. So now you can truly see that they have depleted everything and they have to go back to a simpler way of living because it's they you could tell that the gas is running out. They are truly going further to have to find stuff. So it's going to show that they have to go back to the roots and pre-industrial revolution.
Yeah, you're
Because
absolutely right.
it's a lack of choice. I don't think it's I guess you can look at it as a symbol of the founding fathers and stuff, but I just think it's lack of options for the world that they live in now.
Well, no, you're absolutely right. And what I mean by that is that they're scavenging through the history museums to get these tools, and that they're forced to use those means now than more than they were in the past. Like, you still see the kind of modern with Daryl and his motorcycles, but they're starting to use horses and buggies a lot more. You're seeing them start to use more primitive weapons like spears because I'm sure bullets are becoming more scarce. Um, I don't
And
think we saw a gun fired in this entire episode.
uh
You had Michonne and Daryl using knives and swords, and Rick using his axe. I don't think there was a time that there was ever a shot fired in this episode.
no, I mean that was actually kind of cool. I mean they're gonna have to do that because after All Out War, I'm sure being able to make the bullets is kind of depleted down. But they've also learned too. They're going through trying to do things, so having to keep as quiet as they can is it's always been the rule of thumb for The Walking Dead.
Right, but they didn't
So,
have they're facing situations in the show now, and there's kind of spreading away from the comic because they had some of these issues in the comic, but ammunition was never one of them because Eugene had the ammunition shop going, so he was making bullets for him.
Yeah, but even materials to make bullets, it's got to be getting low.
Yeah.
Even in the comic book, you would think they would actually have to address that eventually, because they have to go somewhere to find the copper or the whatever's made, whatever the actual projectile is made from.
Yeah, I felt like this episode had some pacing issues. It definitely had some pacing issues. It definitely had weird edits. Like their commercial breaks were taken at during weird times.
Yeah, like it wasn't even like in a suspense or like at a cliffhanger situation that would make you actually want to sit through the comics to come back or sit through the commercials to come back. It was just like all of a sudden, boop, just a commercial.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was a weird pacing of it, the commercials as well.
You're starting to see that Daryl very much has the Dwight storyline, even though that Dwight was in the series. Daryl very much has his storyline. Daryl is the leader of the sanctuary. He doesn't want to be the leader anymore, pretty much like Dwight. The same situation Dwight went through is once they overthrew Negan, Dwight was put in place as the leader of the sanctuary, the saviors. He didn't want the job, and they're pretty much replaying that with Daryl. Now, the one thing I thought was interesting is that Carol actually stepped up to take that role. She's actually stepping up and telling Daryl that if you don't want to do this, I'm more than happy to do it.
Well, I actually thought that was kind of cool that they're doing that because it's giving her, it's keeping a lot of her purpose.
And I like
show wise.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like that they changed instead of just giving Carol and Ezekiel his and Michonne's comic romance, they kind of spun it and made it their own.
Yeah.
There's a scene where they're trying to get the wagon and the floor breaks and Ezekiel falls into it, and because he has that near-death experience with all those walkers under the glass floor, he proposes to Carol, and she basically shoots him down, and you could tell she wants to say yes. She even admits it later on that she wants to say yes, but she doesn't. And he kind of has that life-changing experience where he proposes, and it's different than seeing Michonne like run off on the ship for X amount of time, and it's very, I don't know. It was a very interesting way to go about the show.
I just figured they would have. They did, for season opener. I always pictured that you should have guns. Your gun should be blazing. Like, especially with the last two seasons and the way a lot of fans have been kind of shitting on The Walking Dead, it's just kind of, and you've seen in on Facebook and groups and forums, it's like I'm watching it, but I'm hoping I'm not getting another season of it putting along, and I'm getting another season of it just dragging out. And people are going into this season with that attitude, and I just figured they have to know that is what's going on, with their fans. And you think they would come out blazing just a little bit more and trying to rope everybody in again to get super excited. And I think they missed the mark on a season, especially giving us an hour and a half. I just think I figured they just would have done more, bringing it in, setting everything up, showing a little bit more of what's going on, because they didn't really do any of that. But the one thing I did notice that was kind of cool that I'd like is they kind of had the group back together, even though everybody's spread out in their own places. They kind of had that group together, the group. And I thought that was actually kind of cool that they did that.
Well, and that's kind of what Daryl's complaint is that he even says when we had that small group first starting out, that was the way, that it should be done. And he doesn't like the fact that they're all spread out through these different communities now. He doesn't like that. And he voices that. And Rick tells Michonne that, and Michonne pretty much says, if Daryl's voicing something to you, obviously there's a problem.
Yeah.
I think as far as like your point goes about them coming out guns blazing, I don't think they could, because they have to establish to the viewer, we we as comic book fans know there's a time jump. We as comic book fans expected the time jump. Okay, the casual viewer who might not read the comics, you gotta they have to kind of lay that groundwork and set that up and show that.
But they didn't really set a lot of groundwork up for first episode.
Well, they kind of did. They show you how things are changing. Like they're showing you that, the sanctuary is struggling with Negan. They're showing you the relationship, because remember last season left you on the cliffhanger that Maggie, Jesus, and Daryl were ready to overthrow Rick Grimes, and that you can still kind of see that animosity carrying over now between them. And I mean, I just think showing them on horseback, showing them going through the towns, clearing out the zombies, showing them going through the routes, that they have these routes set up now, and that they have patrols. That's kind of laying the groundwork for showing you that there's changes that have been made.
It just seemed choppy.
The other thing is that there's no real threat right now to go guns a-blazing against.
Yeah, but they could. I don't mean guns blazing is going to war. That's not what I mean. I mean guns blazing. Like I think that it should have been more. They didn't make it a whole really super engaging episode. And I just think season premieres, especially with the level of The Walking Dead and other shows, that it's. I think they just should have made it just a tad more. They don't have. I don't think guns blazing is going to war.
No, I know what you're saying.
Guns, but it's just a little bit more exciting. Like, we didn't need an overly drawn out part of them trying to get a plow out of a museum. You know what I mean? And I just like I thought that was a little too long, and it was, oh yeah, look, there's a bunch of glass, so as soon as you've seen that, you're like, okay, who's falling through? You knew that was going to happen. It was just,
well, yeah,
they made certain things too predictable, and they just, you knew someone was going to fall through, and why would it all of a sudden just start cracking? They build floors so that it could withstand a lot of weight, but all of a sudden they can't withstand one wheel from a fucking buggy. I don't know.
Well, I think the walker falling over the railing was put there to suggest that the structure of the floor had been compromised.
But that's not real.
What do you mean that's not real?
They would have built the floor so that it could withstand something like that.
Yeah.
What you mean? So it can withstand hundreds of people standing on it, but it can't withstand one walker falling onto it? That's just not real. You know what I'm saying? Like all of a sudden, like it's been just fine, and people used to walk on it for a long time. Nobody's been in there, and then all of a sudden now one walker gives away the integrity of it.
So you don't think if you stood up on a balcony like that with a glass floor and took like a cinder block or something and threw it on the floor, you don't think it would crack?
No.
On a glass floor, you don't think it would crack?
They built it. They would have to, if it's like that for real, they would have to have built it to withstand the weight of people.
This is a zombie show, and we're arguing what's real and what's not.
Well, I'm just saying, like, for the realness of being in a museum that was built like that.
Yes, I understand.
It would be able to. One walker shouldn't break the integrity of that. I don't know. That's just something that just annoyed me.
I was a little bit annoyed by like I said, the pacing of the show. Like you see them get the wagon stuck in the mud and they get surrounded by zombies and they're trying to get it out, and then the blacksmith's son gets bit, and like that's got to be like the fastest bite or death from a walker bite in the history of The Walking Dead. Like, cause they didn't even have time to amputate it, nothing. Like Herschel got bit and they amputated his leg and he still lived. This kid
Carl was there forever dying.
Yeah, this kid gets bit on the arm and it's all of a sudden game over in 2 minutes. Unless they're trying to assume that because he got kicked by the horse, it was internal bleeding as well. But that's the other thing that kind of irked me is like when he got hit, I was like, what the fuck? Did somebody just kick him? It looked like somebody booted him.
Yeah.
It didn't look like a horse's hoof kicking him. It literally looked like a dude just booted him in the chest. And then it shows they lift up his shirt to reveal the outline of the horseshoe. And I'm like, okay, I guess that goes along with your story, but that's not what it looked like.
Yeah.
Because I was like, when they went to commercial break, I was like, who the fuck just kicked him? Like, what the fuck just happened? And it comes back and he's on the ground dying and he's got a hoof print on his fucking stomach. And I was like, okay, there's that. But I mean, you got to see the way things are changing though, as far as like Maggie and the way Hilltop is being run and kind of how, you know, there people aren't always necessarily behind Maggie.
I like it because in the comics, you don't really see that.
No.
Like once she's running Hilltop, everything was just cool. Like nobody really objected to it. That's one thing that I did like about this episode is to go show, even at Sanctuary too, both places you could tell that there's still a struggle of, not everybody is super accepting, like like even in the comics, all Sanctuary wasn't great to bowing down to Rick Grimes and being a part of it. There was still a group of people there that still didn't like it, but I like that especially at Hilltop, I like that it shows that they didn't, not everybody accepted it well. And I did like that Gregory was really trying to fucking weasel his way back into a position.
Yes, he was.
And he really thought his pansy ass was going to be able to accomplish that mission.
And I like that they kept his comic book death very accurate.
Yes.
If you want to know, he dies in issue 141, pretty much the same way. He's hung for attempting to kill Maggie.
Yep.
It's like they kept it very accurate. I really, really like that. I like how they led into you thinking that they were going to hang the blacksmith that attacked her.
I did too. Yeah, they fooled us.
And then there's Gregory there, and it's like, oh, okay. Maggie had an interesting conversation with Rick where she said, back at, when this all started, you said that I was one day going to be someone to follow, but you haven't. So now I'm going to step up and take that role. And she's going to start doing things differently in the Hilltop. And she kind of lays down the law where Rick is very trying to be accepting and bring everyone together. She still very much holds that animosity towards all the members at the Sanctuary for what happened to Abraham and what happened to Glenn and everyone else along the way, that you can tell she still very much feels that Negan should have been killed and not kept alive. And she's like, I'll give him food, but that wants something in return. Enough of the free rides. We're not here to just constantly give them free shit. I did it. I really like that. And it's got a lot of diamond. I mean, it's setting the building blocks for the rest of the season. I don't see any signs yet of how Rick Grimes is going to leave. We still have 5 more episodes before it happens.
I think it's something that has to do with this bridge.
Yeah, it could be,
because I think this bridge is going to put, because they have to rebuild it. I think they're going to have to. I think that's going to be a nice perfect catalyst for something, because it's going to take up some. I hope it doesn't take up too much fucking time, but I think it's going to take up some time. I think they're going to encounter a lot of crap while trying to get this bridge rebuilt.
So it came out Friday that Kirkman said that Rick Grimes' death in the comic book is going to be much different than his death in the show. So do you think that's him letting something slip, or do you think that's him just trolling that Rick is actually going to die?
Trolling.
Because, yeah, nothing's been set up that Rick's going to die. It's what everyone's assuming. But,
well, the only reason I think he's going to die is because if they're bringing Shane back and they're bringing past members, like I think Sasha's actually going to come back. I think there's going to be a death scene where there's something where he's having these visions of everything, and I think Shane coming back is kind of an indicator that I think Rick Grimes is going to die.
And they announced today that they've tried to kill Judith off this entire time, which kind of made me scratch my head, because Why is it so difficult to kill her off? You should have just killed her off at the prison the same way she dies in the comic.
I think it's Robert Kirkman was actually making the push to have her killed, and it was AMC who did it, right?
I believe so, yeah.
I
But
thought
like
that's what I had read. That it was Kirkman wanting to saying that she should be killed off.
you know, why wouldn't you just do it back at the prison? That's my thing is you should have just done it back at the prison.
Because that season they had inferred it in the beginning
Yeah.
when with the car seat there and it was bloody and everything, and that was perfect. It didn't actually show it, just inferred it. You just took, they could have, addressed it for a second, and it just could have been done.
Mm.
And they did not. Now she is.
They used it as a way to build a relationship between Tyrese and everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
Tyrese and Carol when she came back and saved him and the two two twins. The look at the flowers girls. The only thing I feel like was a miss in this episode is you should have saw Negan. That was one of the gripes I had about last season is there was not enough Negan. He was not used enough. And I would think that was a gripe for a lot of fans. And you come back in episode 1 of season 9 and you still don't show him.
Well, as a rebuilding purpose and everything they're trying to accomplish, there really wasn't a point in having Negan there yet.
It should have. I think it should have opened up with the scene of Rick and Negan having the talk. Like it should have opened up with Rick opening the cellar hatch and coming down and being like, "It's been a long time since we had one of our talks." Like I think that's how it should have started, and then went into everything else.
I think that's going to be episode 2. I think that's going to kind of start out episode 2 is Negan. But yeah, I kind of understood why he didn't really have a purpose. Just showing and rebuilding and everything that they were doing. There wasn't a point to be talking to Negan yet.
Yeah,
they're trying to establish what's going on. But I think eventually, next episode for sure, they already showed that he's going to be part of it. The trailer already showed it.
So we've already got the first episode of season 9. We're into the time jump. Do you still feel that as of what you saw tonight? It might be hard to say, but do you still feel that the death of Carl is going to have major implications on the ability to tell this story?
Yeah. I think, well, they're just going to figure out a different way to do it. But I mean, yeah, I think because it was so, Carl is really needed, and now they're going to someone else is going to have to be there to light that fire and to get it going. I mean, I'm just wondering who is going to be that person that's going to be able. It's got to be someone else.
Yes, because Carl very much in the comics he falls in love with Alpha's daughter. They have a relationship, and they're still together in the comics to this day. So that kind of kicks off the Whisper Wars. That kind of kicks off everything, and that kind of what leads Alpha to basically infiltrate Alexandria. And we don't have that now. So I was kind of watching very closely to see throughout tonight's episode if they were going to try to establish somebody who was going to take that lead. And I as of right now, I don't see who it's going to be. The only person maybe it might be is Henry, Ezekiel's adopted kid. That's the only thing I can think of is because Carol name drops him. But I don't know who else it could be.
I part of me thinks maybe, helping get the Commonwealth more into this season. And I think maybe it's something between them that they bring to the plate.
I don't think the Commonwealth's going to come in. I really don't. I know if it does, it'll be more towards the end of season 9 going into season 10.
I was figuring closer to the mid-season comeback. It would be Commonwealth.
We don't even know that woman is even from the Commonwealth. We're just speculating because of what the comic book character looks like.
Well, and they showed the windmill and everything in this episode.
Yeah, but that was at one of the base camps. That was at the sanctuary. So Commonwealth Steel, I don't. You really think that they're gonna have something like that, like the Commonwealth Steel, there, and it's gonna reference that settlement?
Yeah, I do.
I don't know. I think for pacing reasons, that's trying to do too much. They're trying to do the Whisperers, and the Commonwealth. That's kind of jamming everything too much in there.
And maybe that's how they're going to make up for the slower paced last seasons. Is they're just going to jam shit at us down our throat now.
Well, I think the way they're gonna make up for it is once the Whisperers come in, once Magna and her group shows up, and once the Whisperers come in, I think it's gonna pick up big time. I think we're gonna have to sit through 1 or 2, maybe 3 slow episodes, but I think once Magna and her crew come in, and then all that shit goes down with Negan, and then the Alpha, and then the Whisperers make their entrance. I think that's when shit'll pick up.
We've said this before. We said the same exact stuff when they are introducing Negan.
Yeah, and I mean,
and it didn't.
Well, that's because they didn't transition Negan to the show very well.
But we said the same thing. Once this kicks in and it's all out war is going to kick in, it's going to kick in, it's going to go, and so I'm trying not to say any of those things about the Whisperers because they really shit on us the first time.
Yeah, but they can do the
shame on them. I don't want it to be shame on me.
Yeah, but they can do the Whisperers so much. Doing the Whisperers is it's a whole different thing than trying to bring Negan in. It's a different dynamic. Like they don't have to worry about swearing and all that with the Whisperers. They're less.
No, but I'm not even talking about. I'm not even talking about Negan. I'm talking about just the whole all-out war. We talked about. Hey, we thought it was going to be like 4 episodes. Remember, I said when the season mid-series finale comes back, that it was just going to be that half, and they dragged it out for 2 seasons. And I think they don't have to. I think what I'm just, and that's what we thought they were going to do with All Out War, and they didn't. And the problem is, All Out War it wasn't very long, and they made it super long. This war with the Whisperers is long. It's very long. Like they've been battling them for a while now. They've been in the background, and they've been a pain and a thorn in their side for a while now.
Well, yeah, because we haven't seen the Whisperers since they set out to the Commonwealth. But we do know that Beta is still out there.
So that is you know what I mean? So I think this is something that they should have, maybe they should have flip-flopped it now. They should have not drug out the all-out war and then made the Whisperer Wars, because they'll fight them and then it backs off and then they're still lurking and doing stuff. So I don't know. I'm just hesitant to say that it's going to be quick and they're going to ignite it and it's going to be exciting, because they've let us down before.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you, but I don't know. I think it's a wait and see mentality, but I did like some of the callbacks. The flock of birds at the beginning when Rick and Michonne are walking through the field. I believe that's a callback to issue 127 when they're talking about all the birds migrating around and that like the birds population is getting out of control.
Mm-hmm.
So that was cool, and I kind of liked. There's a lot of other stuff in there that I felt was nicely placed, but all in all, I would have liked. I mean, you would have liked it to be a little bit more faster paced. I felt like the pacing, it had issues at times. There were pacing issues. Personally, I liked seeing them, trying to establish new things and kind of getting you up to speed on what's been going on in this year time jump without going through having to show everything. I'm hopeful that it speeds up in the future in a couple episodes, but I don't know.
I mean, it doesn't necessarily need to speed up. I think it just needs to. They just need to make it more like, like remember when they were following the train tracks and they were going to what's it called where they actually eat people
Terminus.
when they were going to terminus. It wasn't super action packed, but it was engaging and exciting, and the way they were writing that season and when that was going on, it was, um, you know what I mean? Like you couldn't wait to see the next episode because it was exciting. But sometimes there wasn't a lot going on, but there was still a lot going on, and it just it wasn't just war constantly and fighting, but there was a lot of stuff that was going on during that season. It was well written, and I think they need to figure out a way to get back to that kind of writing that makes you not necessarily how a lot has to go on, but a lot to you're like, yeah, I can't wait till the next episode. That episode didn't make me go, I can't wait till next week.
I think it's like I said, it's building. I think they're trying to focus more, and they're really playing on that internal turmoil, that underlying resentment that's there from Maggie and towards Rick, and you kind of start seeing it play out. You start seeing it play out a little bit more between Rick and Daryl, and you kind of see it too with Daryl and Carol. Like you really see that Daryl has feelings for Carol in that scene, and he just doesn't want to come out and say it. You could really feel that like his heart was broken that she's with Ezekiel, and that's why he's like, "Do you want me to stay here with you?" And she's like, "No, go back to Hilltop, take care of Maggie and Herschel." And it's I don't know. I think there's a lot of underlying character dynamic, and they're trying to play more off the character dynamic than the Walkers, but that at some point they have to reestablish that the Walkers are still a threat, and maybe that's what they were trying to do with the blacksmith son dying, is that they were trying to establish that the Walkers are still a serious threat, but I don't know that they necessarily did it in the best way.
No, I don't think they did.
Like
I
you
think
kind of like these characters have no place. So like, what's Rosita's place right now? What's Eugene's place right now? He's the second in command at the sanctuary apparently, but
still,
what's Rosita's place? Where do some of these people fit in? Where's what Tara just rides around and Tara and Jerry just clear paths and make sure that zones are secure. You kind of wonder where they're going to come in, and Aaron and Jesus, and I don't know, like we didn't see any of the seaside either,
mm-mm.
oceanside. So you kind of wonder what's going on there. You can definitely tell that the groups from those areas have split up though, because you see some people from Oceanside at Hilltop now, and you haven't really seen Alexandria. There's clearly a lot of issues going on in Alexandria. I honestly couldn't tell you who's still at Alexandria at this point.
They didn't actually really show it because the last thing we saw, the whole thing burnt down.
Yeah. So
So I mean, they didn't even really get into that. They even you know, I mean, they did kind of show that they rebuilt it. Everybody had their solar panels and they had their wind, but I mean, like they didn't really get into a lot of it.
I would like to go. I mean, a lot of people are saying this is a callback to episode 1 of season 1, and it feels very much like episode 1, season 1 again. And I would be very I need to go back and watch episode 1, season 1, and then watch this episode again and see because from what I remember personally, and I haven't watched season 1 in like a year or two. What I remember personally, season 1, episode 1 was kind of a slow burn too, but towards the end of it, it was him waking up and you see the hospital doors change, don't open, dead inside, and then him meeting Morgan and making his way to the campsite where he runs into where he runs into Lori and Carl. So I would like to see if one episode 1 is as slow burn as this episode was.
And but season 1 episode was also like 40 minutes too.
Yeah.
This one was closer to an hour with I mean, I'm taking out the commercials, but I think that was another thing too that even though season 1, episode 1 might be more of a slow burn, it was a shorter episode.
I think the purpose of this episode really was though to focus on the group and kind of get you up to speed and even I feel like they kind of set that tone at the beginning with Rick's opening monologue. And I think it was kind of show you, there to show you where everyone's at personally, where they're at as a community, and set the stage for where things are going in the rest of the season.
I think they could have did that, but they could have made the episode more engaging.
You're probably not wrong. And I thought for sure, like with the fact that Gregory still being alive, I was like, when he was going through and doing his underhanded treachery stuff and talking to the blacksmith and his wife about, how if their son didn't need to be out there, and feeding him alcohol when he's supposed to be sober, and all this, like I really felt like I was like, okay, this is setting the stage for Maggie's exit. Maybe they're going to change the way they do it from the comic book and exile her, and Gregory will die. And I did not see the Gregory hanging thing at the end coming. I didn't even see Gregory setting up her to be attacked. But when she said that, oh, someone defaced Glenn's grave, then I was like, okay, something's gonna fucking happen.
Yep.
And then like there's a guy waiting all I know what you did last summer style to attack her,
Yeah, once you could tell what Gregory was doing. He was, he found an opportunity and he was honing in on it. And he was manipulating the situation for his benefit, and you knew something was going to happen. And I thought that was probably the best part of that episode, was probably like that 10 minutes total from the beginning of when you could tell that Gregory was manipulating to where they hung him. That was probably like the best 10 minutes of the episode. It was like, yeah, damn, wow.
Yeah.
He went out like he should have, being hung.
But episode 1, season 9 of The Walking Dead, titled A New Beginning, what would your overall score of the episode be?
A 7.
A 7?
Mm-hmm.
I give it an 8. I'd go 8. But I mean, I think that's where I enjoyed it a little bit more. I think we differ there. But
I enjoyed it. I mean, it was nice. It's nice having The Walking Dead back. It was nice that, you could see what, that things are going to be, there's changes, and you can tell that there's, things aren't quite right, and they're trying to figure a lot of stuff out. I just think as a season, for 2 slow seasons that didn't give us what we wanted, to come back after that with another slow episode, I don't think they could have done better. And I know that all they were doing was trying to, give everybody, hey, this is what's going on. Here is your heads up, so that, so now we're in the know. But I think they just could have made it a little bit more exciting, that you were like, oh man, I can't, because I did not leave the episode going, I cannot wait. God damn it, it's gonna be a week. Fuck, I can't wait a week to see episode 2. That episode didn't do that for me. And for a season opener, you always want the first episode to be like, oh, especially something like The Walking Dead, you always want it to be, oh yes, it's back, hooray! And you're excited, and you're shooting off party favors and shit, and I just didn't get that.
Well, I don't know about shooting off party favors, but I definitely think that they should have. You want to give people that fuel to bring them back to next week, because everyone's going to tune in this week to this episode to see what's changed and see what's going on. But it's how you hook them to draw them to come back next week, and I feel like that was missing. That's why I'm not going to go higher than an 8. Like, I liked seeing where the characters were. I liked seeing, like you said, how depleted everything was. Even the zombies, like the zombies are more decayed, and you see the part where they're in the monument or the museum, and Sadiq, I think his name is, or the new doctor guy gets grabbed, and you see the spiders and everything come out of that zombie's face. And I think they really set that up. I liked seeing all that dynamic and kind of seeing how the animosity of Maggie and Daryl are still there, and Rick has like no clue.
Mm-mm.
Rick isn't catching on that there's this animosity here towards him, and everyone's looking at him like the savior, the bless you Rick Grimes, and Maggie's kind of like, fuck you, I'm giving up food and people, and I'm doing all this stuff to help these people, and they're not pulling their weight, they're not providing anything back, and their leader, and they're responsible for major deaths of our companions in our groups, and burning down Alexandria and destroying Hilltop, and she's focusing more on helping them than she is rebuilding her area. And I think that's where when Rick is like, oh well, you guys are thriving, and that's because she's kind of putting the Hilltop first. She's kind of thinking that we're looking out for number one, but still trying to not betray Rick. I think she's kind of caught between the two, and by her saying, I'm gonna finally be the leader I need to be, was her giving Rick that big ass middle finger.
Yeah.
So
I don't think Rick caught it. I think he's just like,
yeah, he's very, as I feel like he's very naive to the situation at hand. But I think that's it. That's all I got for this week. Do you have anything else you want to talk about?
I think that's the other reason too, is you could tell this wasn't an episode of episodes 2, is because we covered everything pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And
it's been 40 minutes.
Yeah.
But yes, we summarized the episode up pretty quickly.
Yeah.
There really wasn't a lot of, there was 2 comic nods, callbacks that I saw, with the hanging of Gregory and him trying to kill Maggie and the birds thing, but other than that, there really wasn't a lot of nods to the comic book.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that once Magna and her group gets in, and once we get into the thick of things, and once the Whisperers start coming, and once shit hits the fan, I think where shit's gonna go crazy is whatever happens to Rick Grimes, whatever Rick Grimes' definitive departing sequences, whether he just leaves or he's dead, or he goes the way of Heath, where something happens and you think he's dead. I think that's what's going to be the what really lights the fuse going forward.
Yeah.
And I think at this point where we were right all along, I think at this point you kind of got to put his head on a pike. You can't have Rick Grimes die by a walker bite. You kind of got to have it go out in a more threatening manner, by the way, to make people care again. And I think the only way to do it is pike his head.
Yeah, it's got to be big. It's Rick Grimes. He is the he is the biggest person behind The Walking Dead. He can't just not show up one day or decide to go on a long horse ride to find himself.
And I think that's the other reason that you got this extra long episode that was more focusing on these characters, because they wanted to show you that these characters are going to be able to thrive and continue on without Rick Grimes there. They don't want people leaving the show because Rick's leaving. They want you to see, okay, that somebody's going to step up, and these characters as a collective have the ability to step up as a collective to take over Rick Grimes' story and continue on and do the things that need to be done. But we'll have to wait and see with that going forward.
Yeah, I think they've got a lot. And I'm hoping what they did was they spent the last, writing and filming this season. What I'm really hoping from The Walking Dead is they listened. They went online and they listened to their viewers. They listened to their fans. And I hope they really took an account, because it was a very big consensus of what everybody was saying. It's slow. It's being drug out. And I think what they need to do is I hope they listen to that and they take that advice from all of us, and I hope they run with it.
Yeah.
That's what I really hope. Because if they don't know that's what they think, then they're naive and stupid.
Yeah.
Because there's no way they can get away with not knowing how the fans felt about the last 2 seasons.
Yeah, and do you feel that Michonne may be a little bit apprehensive about how Maggie's getting ready to run Hilltop?
Yes, I think you're gonna see that that I bet you they're gonna have some kind of discussion where she's like, where they don't think, hey, I don't think that's right.
They're gonna have some kind of beef.
But there has to be, and I agree with Maggie, and same things I agree with Rick with except there has to be retributions for how big of the crime it has to fit. The punishment has to fit.
Right. And I think that was her establishing her difference between the way she's ruling and Rick, because Gregory makes that connection where, Rick's your boy. Rick does no wrong. You agree whatever Rick says, you agree with Rick. And I think that was her establishing her difference between her and Rick is Rick couldn't make the hard call. Rick couldn't make the call to kill Negan. He wanted to do it civilized and show that we're better than this, and that if we're going to start a new world, we have to be better than this. And Maggie says, "Look, at Hilltop, your punishment's gonna fit your crime." And I think that was the whole purpose of her doing a town hanging, was to show that she's not Rick Grimes and that she's not gonna run things like Rick Grimes.
Yeah, but I mean, does a hanging justify an attempted murder? It should be flip flop. Negan should be hung. Like show wise, Negan should be hung and Gregor should be sitting behind bars.
Exactly, but that's what I'm saying is that Rick is trying. He's like, no more killing, so you're gonna rot in a jail cell. And Maggie kind of says she hasn't agreed with it. She doesn't agree with that Negan sitting in a jail cell, and she's saying that here your punishment's gonna fit your crime, and she's showing that she's not Rick Grimes. That she'll off a motherfucker if she has to. Is Maggie Greener gonna have to choke a bitch or hang a bitch?
Looks like it.
Apparently so. But that's it. That's our review for episode 1 of The Walking Dead season 9: A New Beginning. Kyle, you said 7.
I gave it a 7.
7. I give it an 8. So we differ on the score. I feel like we differed on some aspects, but came together and agreed on a lot. So let us know in the comment section below what you thought of the episode, or on our Facebook at Absolute Geek Podcast, or send us a message. Let us know what you thought of episode 1 of season 9 of The Walking Dead. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Why? Do you think it could have been better? What did you like? What didn't you like? We're anxious to hear your responses, but we know you probably won't. That's just how things go. But yeah, I don't know. Like, it's hard to say.
That was a hard episode to gauge the entire season, even half the season.
You're right. It was. It definitely left a lot of questions. But I want to say thank you to everyone who tuned into us on YouTube or watches this video on demand on YouTube. If you are one of those people, make sure to leave a comment. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and that bell to get the notification when we go live every Sunday right after the Walking Dead new episodes premiere. Make sure to check out the Absolute Geek podcast every Friday night, also right here on YouTube. We definitely appreciate all of your support. If you listen to us in any of your, podcasting platforms, SoundCloud, Overcast, Podbean, Stitcher, make sure to like and subscribe and leave us a review. Those go a long way to help us a lot. If you're a huge fan of the Absolute Geek Podcast, go to our Teespring store and pick up your merch. And the last thing I want to say tonight is, as we leave, I want to take a big shout out and to say rest in peace to actor Scott Wilson, who played Herschel in The Walking Dead, who lost his battle with leukemia the other day at 76 years old. So one of the Walking Dead family is gone for good. So with that, I'm Matt.
Oh, Kyle.
Saying, remember to stab the walkers in the head, and we'll see you next time.